Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I enjoyed Sick Girl so much. Oh my goodness. uh,
Thank you.
yeah, no, I'm such a huge fan already. I would love to know because this is your first feature film, right?
Yes, yes, it is the first film I directed
So,
and wrote.
oh, and wrote, yeah, yeah. So what made you decide to transition from, because I saw you did a lot of casting, like the casting side of things, into the more, directing and writing side of the business?
I started writing a long time ago, probably soon after I was working in casting. I just I was self-taught. I didn't go to school or anything for it. I did eventually start working with a great writing coach in LA, but for a long time it was me just kind of teaching myself. So I didn't want to show anyone anything for a while. I kept it kind of under wraps until I felt like I had something that was strong enough. But I think I think I started about, it's been about like 20 years since I've been writing. It took me a minute to get something out into the world.
Well, when did the story first come to you then?
So I wrote this about 10 years ago. I was kind of going through like a similar thing in my life as the girls in the story are with my friends. We'd all grown up together and in our 30s, we were starting to get married and have kids and move to different cities and states. And it was the first time that we had really ever been faced with these challenges, and I was nervous, and I didn't really know what was going to happen with our friendship. And I think I was kind of trying to explore that a little bit through writing and to see how everything would work out. It all worked out good. Spoiler alert, we're all still friends. But yeah, it's when you go through those big life changes, you never know what's going to happen. And I feel like for me, kind of working that out with writing is always a little helpful.
Well, did you always have Nina in mind for the lead role, or was it just, she read and it was a perfect fit?
No, I didn't, because when I wrote this, I think Nina was about 15. So I didn't initially have her in mind. But when we were, in the process of looking for actors for the role, I was working with the wonderful John Papsadera as the casting director, who I also worked for years. He's a producer on this movie. He sent the script to Nina's agent and she liked it. So we actually just met for dinner and talked about it. And I had seen her work and really loved her. I hadn't seen her do a feature comedy, where she was really kind of twisted and I hadn't seen her do something like this before, and I thought it would be really interesting. I love when actors play parts that I haven't seen before, and she was totally up for it because I was like, I feel like Ren's a bit of a hot mess, and I'd kind of want to mess you up and make you a little scruffy, and she was like, let's do it. So it was actually a lot of fun.
Well, just kind of to get into the film, I mean, it starts off with, Ren's fear of change. It's pretty much a big driving force for her actions when we're introduced to her. Why do you feel, this is something that she struggles so much harder to embrace than the rest of her friends?
I think she's probably a little bit of a slow starter. She's I don't think she's figured out what she wants to do with her life yet, or exactly who she is. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. I think, we're expected to kind of follow this very neat life path where it's like, you go to high school, you go to college, you get married, you have babies. And life isn't always that neat and doesn't work out that way. And it does for some people, although obviously we all have our different struggles that people aren't aware of. But I think, for me, I took a really different path than a lot of the people I know that I grew up with and that I love. And it's scary. It's scary to do something different and to see like your friends hitting all these milestones and you're kind of just not quite there yet and wondering how that's going to work out for you. And I obviously haven't ever pretended to have cancer or anything like that, but I can identify with Ren a lot in that way. She's a lot like me and just, feeling a little bit lost and trying to figure out who you are and what where your place is in the world.
Well, she kind of ends up having this very panicked moment, that is the catalyst for this lie, where it just kind of, comes out of her. do you think maybe that was just the perfect storm, or would she eventually end up kind of telling a lie like this under different circumstances?
The thing with a lie like this is it's such a terrible lie. My interest was kind of like, I've always said, for me, friendship is kind of one of the purest relationships because you don't have any obligations or commitments holding you to these people. It's all choice. And to me, that's what makes it so precious. So I wanted to kind of explore how strong those bonds actually are and what could be the worst thing you could possibly do and that could maybe separate those bonds. And for me, pretending to have cancer was, and for most people, I'm sure they feel the same way. It's a pretty heinous thing to do. So my trick with this was actually trying to figure out a way where she could say something so terrible and not be completely hated by the audience right away. So, since we can't see her internal monologue, since it's a movie, I kind of tried to work out a situation where she's put in a pressure cooker and sort of blurts it out spur of the moment. So it doesn't feel so calculated, I guess.
I'd also love your insight into what went into writing Leo and Ren's relationship, because there's so many conflicting emotions. There's a lot of ups and downs. I found it a very, very interesting part of the film.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, that part was really obviously very important to me. I wanted to make sure that nobody, first of all, thought that I was taking cancer lightly. I truly don't know anyone, a single person who hasn't been affected by cancer in some way, with a family member or a friend. It's impacted everyone. And I wanted to make it clear that I was not in any way making light of that or mocking it. So I thought Leo's character was very important to just show that side of it, that, this is obviously a very real thing that people have. And you are disrespecting people who actually have this disease by doing this, and also kind of having fun with him and giving him a kind of like he enjoyed almost poking at her. And I think, when we see Ren through Leo's eyes, it helps us like her a little bit more because he gets that she's just misguided and not actually an evil person. So.
Well, there's a very chaotic scene at the club, and I would just love any behind the scene tidbits that went into kind of creating that sequence.
Well, we had to shoot that in I think 3 or 4 hours. We were shooting it in an actual club that was opening that night. So they were like, you can, it's an independent film. So we're obviously working on a low budget. So we're trying to, scramble in and out of places for the least amount of money possible. So they gave us this space for the day because, the clubs aren't open during the day. But they were like, you have to be out by the time we open, which I think was at 7 or something. So we're scrambling to do it. We actually had a stunt coordinator come in. He was from another area of Oklahoma. I want to say Oklahoma City. We shot this in Tulsa, and he's taught a stunt class, and he choreographed this with his stunt class and brought them all down to do this with the actors. And the day before, he worked with, the four main girls to kind of plan this whole thing out and rehearse it. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was crazy. And when Nina kind of lights the shot on fire, she actually did that, which was a little scary, but she's a daredevil. She loves doing stuff like that. So yeah, it was interesting. It was definitely, I think that was our second day shooting. So it was definitely throwing me in the deep end very quickly.
Wow. What a way to start shooting a movie.
Yeah, nuts.
Well, Ren also gives this monologue on your friends being the people you choose. And, it was something that really resonated with me. I'm sure it's going to resonate with a lot of people as well. So I'd love to know just kind of what inspired that speech for you.
It's funny you bring that up. When Nina and I had dinner the first time we met, she said that speech was what made her want to be in the movie because she has very close friendships as well. And for me, that is pretty much the heart of the whole movie when she says that. And it's, just like I've said before, I've been very, very lucky with my girlfriends. They are my family. They're the people in the world that I feel the closest to. They've been by my side through everything. They're not afraid to tell me the truth, but they love me no matter what. And I just really wanted to pay tribute to that and put. I hadn't seen a movie about friendship that I think really honored that. You see a lot of love stories. And for me, I think friendship is also a love story. So I think this was kind of, my rom-com for friendship or whatever, if that doesn't sound too corny.
No, yeah. So what is it, at the end of the day, did you really want to say about, these women and the lengths that they would go for each other?
I think there are certain relationships in your life that you're lucky enough to take for granted, as far as like your parents or and that I don't know that that's true across the board. Obviously, there's always extenuating circumstances, but there's people who you expect to always have in your life that no matter how badly you behave. And I think there's something to be said about the fact that you could, with friendships, always walk away if things get too difficult, or if someone isn't, behaving is behaving badly. And I don't want to act like I think of this as an excuse to go and act like a jerk. But I do think, there have definitely been times in my life where I've done things or that I wasn't super proud of. And my friends, although they would call me out for it, would always, still be there the next day. And I think, that's probably been the greatest gift of my life. So for me, I just wanted to pay tribute to that. I wanted to honor and kind of show people that those relationships are possible, and they take work, and it's not easy, especially as you get older. I think it's a choice you have to keep making. It's not a choice you make once. It's, every time someone calls you and says, do you want to do something? And you're like, I'm really tired, or I have work tomorrow. And a lot of the times, you can't always be there when you want to be, but it is remembering that all these relationships are important and they take work, and you've got to put in the time. And I feel like I'm giving a lecture on friendship, but I
love it.
I am pretty passionate about it. So,
well, now that you've got, this first feature film under your belt, what are you hoping to do next? Anything else that you'd like to write or direct that's upcoming?
Yes, I wrote a movie. I actually wrote it before Sick Girl, but it's gone through a bunch of iterations since then. But I am in pre-production on it. It's a romantic comedy that I wrote, and I'm going to be directing. And we're hoping to go on that in 2024. So that'll be my next project.
Awesome. That sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good. It's another very twisted female character who does some crazy things. I guess I'm just into those kind of stories.
I was going to say that's my exact genre. So awesome. All right. Well, yeah, that was all I had for you. Thank you so much for talking with me, Jennifer. It was so great to hear all your insight.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you liked the movie.